with a thing called tuna sashimi. 3, 2, 1.
Hello guys, I was going to tune you back again. This time we're going to do a hardware overview sort of review. I've got myself an Analogue Pocked, as you can see it by here. I've been after one of these for a little while, but they're a bit tricky to get hold of, and when they've come up for pre-order I haven't had the money at the time. So I found one in CEX, and I had some stuff I could basically trade in for trade-in prices. And so it didn't cost me too much, even though it was overpriced basically, but well, the stuff I had traded in, I only ended up paying like 80 quid for it, so I can't complain. And it was stuff, it was in a box. So I've picked up the Pocked. So when you get this, you'll notice, when you first pick this box up, you'll notice the weight of it. It's quite heavy, and the box picks up all your fingerprints and everything, which is crazy. So pretty much this is a box. It's Analogue branded. There's the back, serial number. This box, we'll open this up. In the box you get the Analogue Pocked itself. You also get basically, there's a sticker, there's basically a little cardboard sleeve and some stickers in there, and this is your USB-C cable, but we're not going to be using that for this review. And that's all you get in the box. You don't get a charger or anything. They recommend a 3 amp 5 volt charger to charge this machine up, and they reckon it takes 4 to 5 hours to charge, and then you get about 6 hours, 7 hours, you know, playing time, depending on brightness, screen, that type of thing. So this is the actual unit itself. Hopefully we'll get the camera will focus. So you got your D-pad, you got your 4 face buttons. If I zoom in, you can see your FPGA logo. You got your home button in the middle, and then that's pretty much start and select. Then on the one side then you've got your SD card slot, and you've got your speaker. And then on the left hand side then you've got your power button. If I can get to it, there's your power button there, and then you've got your volume up and down, which is also mute when you press 2 together, and your other speaker. And then on the back then you get your cartridge slot, and there's left and right shoulder buttons. And that's pretty much it on the front of the unit itself. So we'll turn this unit on. You hold it down for a couple of seconds and then it turns on. So I'll go back to the main menu. So when you first turn this on, you get this menu. When Analogue first put these out, they hadn't unlocked the second FPGA, because these have actually got 2 FPGA chips in it. There's one that runs all the cores, you know, all the official cores you can see and run for your cartridges and everything. Then there's an open FPGA, which then they've opened it up to the community, and the community is making cores and everything. It's like the Mister basically. So this is an FPGA machine like the Mister. When you first have this, it's probably going to come with an older firmware, so you're going to need to update the firmware. Updating firmware is pretty simple. You just basically go on the Analogue site, you download the latest firmware, you get your SD card, you format your SD card to a FAT32, or actually I'm using exFAT. So basically use exFAT, that's your best option. Put it on exFAT, you just dump the firmware files on the root of the SD card, put the SD card turn it on, it updates the firmware, and off you go. And then you have the fully unlocked open FPGA. So as you can see, the first option you get is your cartridge. Hopefully this is going to play good. And then you get your library, which is basically, I haven't really played around with that. I think it's your it picks up your library games and stuff. I'm not really sure how that works. You got your open FPGA bit, which is where all the cores, the community cores and everything are made. You got your memories, which are pretty much your save files, and you can save by holding down the home button and then pushing up to save or pushing down to load. I think you can only have 1 save per game, but I think there's 128 save slots on there. I haven't messed around with the save slots a huge amount. So if I go into memories now and then I go to save states, you'll probably see there's a save state in there somewhere. You got screenshots as well, like I did take a screenshot of a game. So you basically save states to go in there. In tools then, get the reflections. You've got a couple of little tools you can use. You've got Nano Loop, which is basically a music program. So you can make music on this thing. So like the old 8-bit music you find on the net. I need to look more into this, and it looks pretty simple to use. Like I'll give you a quick look at what the actual non-loop software looks like. It's basically a looping type machine. When it loads up, there is full instructions how to use this on Analogue. I need to read it, so it'd be fun. It'd be a bit of a fun thing to have a mess around with. It's taking a while to load in. Oh, I gotta press the button. That's why. Yeah, so that's pretty much your looper. So if I do that, and there's various things you can do with this. So I think you can make some really good music and stuff with this, but I'm not quite sure how to use it. Like if I put another one there. So you can get that sort of thing going on, and then you can build up on it. So that's quite a nice feature to have that actually built in. So we'll go back to that. The other tools you've got is GB Studio. GB Studio is basically for people making Game Boy games. And you can import them into GB Studio and play them on here, which is quite nice. The developer part of it, which gives you access to various other settings and stuff, but you probably don't really want to mess around with a lot of this, to be honest. And then you've got your user service, which gives you all your details and stuff of the machine, and your settings, which you can basically, these are settings for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance and Game Gear out of the box. And you can set like screen settings, like if you go into Game Boy Video, you can set the sharpness, you can do screen modes. Well, I'll play around with this when I put a cartridge in it. And basically you can set the audio, global reset, everything. You got your settings for your Analogue OS, which are like time and date and what buttons you want to use. You got your library, and then you've got your save states, which are your memories. So I'm going to, you don't have to turn this off to put a cartridge in it, by the way. So I'm going to put a cartridge in here, and I'm going to go up to Game Boy. So this is an original Game Boy cartridge. I wish I had a more steady way of showing you this. So this Tower of Duraga. So what you can do on this, you can go into settings, go into Pocket, Display. Oh, sorry, not Pockets. You want to go to Settings, Systems, Game Boy, and then Video. And then what you can do then, you can change the display mode. So you can have Analog Grey. You can have the original DMG look. The original Game Boy Pocket look. Game Boy Light, or you can have the neon one, which is interesting, which goes very red, or you can have the Analog GB look. And you can do the same with sound. You can basically mess around with color palettes and the various other things, and your screen sizes and sharpness. But we're not going to mess with that. So this is so if I start this up, just to show you what it looks like. See how close I can get before it loses it a bit there. The screen on this is fantastic. It looks amazing, the screen does. Especially when I'll show you some other games later. The screen looks amazing. It's really high resolution. It's 1600 by 1440. So it's basically 10 times, it's an exact 10 times multiplayer, or the size basically of the original Game Boy screen. So this fits perfect. So while leaving this on, I'll give you an idea of different what screens, the differences you get from the original screens. So yeah, there's an original Game Boy. If you notice, it's pretty much the same size as an original Game Boy as well. Very similar size wise. I think that's the form factor they were going for. So yeah, you can see it's very hard to see these days. And mine's developed a little bit of a line on the side. So if I turn this down, because this Analogue Pocket is very loud, by the way. I would say it's extremely loud. So that's the original display. So if I turn that off, and I'll show you, this is a a GB Boy. Don't think I got a cartridge in it. This is a knockoff Game Boy Color, essentially. It's a nice unit, but it does have one flaw, basically. The flaw is the D-pad sucks. It's basically, you push down on the D-pad and it locks straight to the circuit board. It's got no pivot on it, so the D-pad is awful on it. But as you can see, it's got a pretty nice screen. The unfortunate thing with this, the screen is not quite the correct ratio. So you can see the difference between that. So that's the Game Boy. This is not a bad, apart from the D-pad is terrible. If this had a good D-pad, this would be a really nice bit of kit. And they're about 40 quid, I think, to buy. I'll turn this pocket down because they are extremely loud. So if I take that out, I'll show you. This is my Game Boy Advance SP. So that's the backlit screen on the Game Boy Advance SP, and the difference is startling, to be honest. Okay. So you can see the difference in screen. This looks quite, like on camera it looks a bit brighter, but it looks quite dark these days. So that's the SP. This is quite interesting, going through all these. This is the Game Boy Pocket. As you can see, this thing is a lot bigger than the Game Boy Pocket. But then, if I start that up, the Game Boy Pocket screen is very similar to the original Game Boy screen. Just smaller. So, yeah, the difference is, well, night and day in there, basically. So that's the Pocket. And this is the interesting comparison. I've got a original Game Boy here with a brand new screen set in it. So this is the latest screen you can fit in them. So if I start it up, and yeah. Actually, I wonder if I can find the same game. Let me go back. Let me get the same game going, and you can see the differences then. This screen is surprisingly comparable for its size. It's not as good, and it does have a bit of light bleed problems and stuff, but generally it's pretty good. Let's have a look. Japan set. See if I can find Tower of Draga or Duraga. Maybe it's not called Tower of Duraga. No, I can't find it. We'll just go with whatever game it is. But yeah, I say this screen is very nice as well. It's really high resolution, and it makes playing the original Game Boy games really good. So if I can get a bit of a look. So that's the Game Boy replacement screen, which is surprisingly, for this size, it's not as nice, but it is surprisingly comparable compared to that one. But this screen is definitely nicer. Like if I start the game, as you can see. But I've been using this Game Boy quite a bit. It's really nice to play Game Boy games in it, and because of the high resolution screen, it looks lovely. I say a little bit comparable, but not quite as good, but still very nice indeed. So pretty much you can play original Game Boys on this. You can go back and you can go to quick cartridge. So if I go to quick cartridge, it'll go out to the cartridge. This will play out of the box. Will play Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color cartridges. The cartridges look, because they only slot in literally like that. They don't look safe, but they don't move really. To be honest, they're pretty tight. So I don't think they're going to fall out, and tapping them is not going to do anything. So let's have a look in here then. So basically, the reason I got this is for the FPGA stuff. So I'm going to show you some stuff running on this FPGA. So you go to open FPGA. Out of the box, you need to set this up. The easiest way to do it is to basically get Pocket Updater off GitHub. You basically unzip that and you run the exe file. You get a card reader, put your SD card in there, and then you point Pocket Updater to your SD card, and you literally just click update, and it goes off. It gets all the cores for you. It adds them all on there. There's options in there for extra fancy sort of, like if I go to consoles and I click on Genesis or wherever, you see like pictures. These are little extras you can tick on. It'll go on, download all this stuff, and it will basically populate your SD card for you and add all the stuff on. It'll download the arcade games as well, like a mister, and it'll add everything on. All you have to do then after that is go into the assets folder, find the core, the folder for the core you're using, and then go into the common folder with inside that and just add your ROMs to it. It was pretty simple and painless, and I had this set up pretty damn quick. So it does arcade games, as you can see. I'll show you Arm Police Bat Rider running on you. It does loads of consoles now, loads of handhelds, even Game & Watch. Trying to hold this steady when you're showing it. Game & Watch and everything as well. It even does the Amiga, which actually looks pretty nice on you. Some of the arcade games do take quite a while to load in, but even looking on the screen, even with me having my bloody eyes done, look, obviously my phone's not really going to do a screen justice. So basically put your credit in. Even looking at this screen from where I am, it's super clear. Really lovely resolution on it. Hopefully, I don't know how far I can zoom it in before it starts going funny. And it plays these games lovely as well. It plays a bit like a Mister, basically. So it's essentially what you've got is a slightly cut down handheld Mister with a stunning screen. I would say a lot of people's desktop PC screens are not as high resolution as this one. Oops, I got caught. Hard playing through the viewfinder on my phone. Let's do a bomb. So you get the idea, and that's what it actually looks like. So I'll go to this now and I'll show you as you go to quit. And what you can do in here is go to core options, and then it gives you loads of options for the games. The only thing it doesn't do, which I would have liked it doesn't do autofire, which would have been lovely. So guys, if I go back to FPGA, right, so basically arcade multis are pretty much, it does CPS1, CPS2, not everything's complete yet, but CPS2 is going to be public soon. System 16 and the Tato New Zealand hardware. In computers, you've got the Amiga, you've got Space War and the Video Brain, wherever the hell that is. In console, you've got the Arcadia, the Atari VCS 7800, Channel F, the ColecoVision, Creativision, you've got the Mega Drive Genesis. In television, Mass System, NES, Odyssey 2, PC Engine CD, SG-1000, Studio 2, I have no idea what that is, and the Super Game Boy. And then in handhelds, then you've got the Adventure Vision, the Audiboy, the Game Mate, Game & Watch. I'll show you them in a minute. Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Game Gear, Game King, Mega Duck, Pokemon, Supervision, Tamagotchi, and Wonder Swan. In home consoles, then you got the Super Famicom. And then in others, for some reason, you got Flappy Bird, which I'm sorted. And then categorized as Neogeo. So I will show you. I don't want to make this review super long, if I can help it. I will show you Game & Watch. So if I pick... let's have a look what we got. Mario Brothers. This is a really cool way to play Game & Watch, by the way. So as you can see, the double screen ones do show up like this. So you got basically the two screens going, so it's a little bit awkward, but you can still play them, and because of the resolution on the screen, even I can see that from you as well. So you basically got them. So if I go back, see if I can find a single screen one. You can go to core options. You can load another game. I found sometimes that breaks the games, and you've got to go out and basically quit the core and go back into it, which takes a couple of seconds really. It doesn't take long. There you are. There's one that takes two screens that way. There you are. So basically you can play your Game & Watch stuff. So if you love Game & Watch games, this is a pretty nice way of doing it. And it looks so nice on that screen. I say my phone is definitely not doing it justice. So that's the Game & Watch stuff. Go back into that. I'm going to show you Neogeo. So I'm going to run that. I'm going to show you King Fighter's 96. The arcade games, especially the bigger Neogeo games, take a little bit longer to load in, as I suppose you would expect. It's got a pretty fast SD card in here as well, so it's not the SD card, it's taking a bit to load into memory basically. I don't know whether it does the complete list of games I've put on here, but I've chucked them in here anyway. This is probably about the worst load you're going to get. Maybe a bit longer with some of the bigger Neo Geo games. But Neo Geo looks stunning on here. Like if I turn it up a little bit. Sorry about the movement, guys. It's a bit awkward to hold this. I wish I had some way of sitting it down, you know, so then you could have a proper look at it. It's got a pretty awesome looking handheld Neo Geo. So, I say hard to play in the viewfinder, but you get the idea. Oh, it's gone out of focus. So that's Neo Geo on you. As you can imagine, the cores are pretty damn nice. They seem pretty perfect. So I'm going to quit that. Go back to open FPGA. So I'll show you a console game. I'll show you the Master System. The Master System looks lovely on you. Lower resolution, but it looks fantastic. Let's do Psycho Fox. I just went past it. Psycho Fox. Okay. So. I don't know all the buttons on here yet. I haven't played around with this yet. So basically, you've got the Master System on you. Yeah, so it's got a decent amount of cores on here. I bought a 256 gig memory card, and I've filled everything on these cores, including all the arcade games and all the games for each of the core. I filled up 150 gig. So basically, I've got pretty much everything I want on here. So I'm going to sit this back down. So it's a bit awkward to show you games here, unfortunately. I wish I had like a stand I could put it on and then show you so it wasn't wobbling around. But sorry guys, I haven't got anything like that. Yeah, so you can get some accessories for this as well. You can get a dock, which I might end up getting. The dock, you basically place it in like this. It sits up, and then it charges the units for you as well. And then it allows you to add 2 USBs onto it, I believe, and HDMI out. So basically you can play all the games on the TV through the dock. The other thing the dock is very useful for, as far as I know, you can update it. When you need to update any of the cores in this, you've got to take the SD card out, put it back in your PC, run the update and put it back in. Be careful of that, guys, as well. If you click that in and you let go of it, the card will just fly out. The spring is really strong. To the point I lost the SD card. I had to find it. But yeah, so you get a dock, and as far as I know, you can update it through the dock. You don't need to then take the SD card out. I say the dock allows you to play all the cores on the TV. Plus the other thing the dock does, I think it's got built-in Bluetooth. So the 8-bit pads are all compatible. Well, a lot of them are compatible with it, and you can just sync them directly to the dock. You can't use the USB-C on the bottom of this to output to a TV. You need the dock, so they've obviously locked that down to the dock, unfortunately. There is a link cable as well, so if you've got the original Game Boy and you want to play games, or another Pocket, you can play Game Boy games through a link cable. I'll show you a Game Boy game on you. There is one other little downside, which I'll find. Let's do Turtles. Attack of the Foot Clan. There's one downside. All the nice, like the screens to make it look like an LCD and change all the colors and things like that. You can't do it on the FPGA cores. And if you go into the options on the cores, there's no display options. So you're literally just stuck with that with the cores. I don't know whether eventually the cores will add the display options in, but that is a little bit of a downside because you could change it all, but it still looks pretty fantastic nevertheless. I remember buying this from Japan when it first came out. The other thing I would say about the screen is super high resolution. It's very bright. The viewing angles are amazing on it, as you can probably see. And the same with the side. You can, oops, oh, it's not focusing now. Yeah, same from the side. The viewing angles are pretty amazing on it. You don't lose anything really. You lose a little bit once you get to there, but you can still see it all. And the scrolling on here as well is super smooth. There's no blurring in the scrolling. It just looks fantastic when it's moving. And when you're using Gameboy games and stuff like that, it looks super big as well. It's very nice. But let's go back to quit. Yeah, so the screen is lovely. It's a very nice quality screen. It's got that, basically there's no motion blur. Sharpness is right up. Unfortunately, with the cores, you can't add the overlays. Right, so what would I say about the device from using it so far? I really like the device. It's very nice. I like the fact you can put all the FPGA stuff on it, and there was a lot more cores than I expected on this thing. Even with my eyes after having cataract surgery, I can still see the screen on this. I can still game on it, no problems at all. The screen is beautiful. This is quite comparable in some ways, but it's not as nice. It's a bit of a lower quality screen, but still looks fantastic on the Game Boy mod. It still looks very good, and it's very high resolution as well. But this screen just blows it away. Out of all the handhelds I've got, the Switch, the Vita, the PSP, and the other handhelds I got, this is by far the best screen I've seen on a handheld. In fact, I've even got 3 times reading glasses and looked really close to the screen, and I can't see any of the pixels at all on it. So the pixel density is super high on this screen, way higher than a mobile phone, I would say. Because even on a mobile phone, even my iPhone with the 2K screen, when you look at it, you can sort of see the pixels, but on this you can't. You can't see it at all. So yeah, the screen is lovely. The sound is it's ridiculously loud. This thing is. The sound is super loud. Obviously, there is options to change the sound. You can have low. You can put headphones in, and you can have low impedance or high impedance for your headphones. Nice option. You can change that through the speakers. Obviously, the little tiny speakers. You do get a little bit of bass, but it's mainly a bit more of on the tinny side. But it's a tiny handheld. What do you expect? You are going to get that new. Buttons feel nice. Really good. Down to the slight downside, D-pad. I've heard a lot of reports. People say the angles on the D-pad are not very good, and sometimes they get ghost inputs. Well, they're right. What I found is that if you hold the pad like this, which is what I'd be normally doing, and you push up lightly like that, you won't get the up. You'll only get you only get the forward. You've literally got to put your thumb over it, and then you've got to really make sure you push down for the angles to get it. Other people are saying they get ghost inputs, which I have had as well. So the D-pad's not terrible, but it's not fantastic either. I am getting used to it now, mind. At first, I thought it was dreadful, but I am getting used to it now because now I'm knowing that I've got to, if I want these angles on you, I've really got to make sure I push to the angles. Like let me show you what I mean. I think the Mega Drive one, is it the Mega Drive or the PC Engine? I think it was PC Engine actually. I've got a tool on you on the PC Engine one. So if I go down to tools, I do this, and then I do pad test. I think this one works. Ah, you are. So here's the PC Engine pad test. And if I turn it up, you can you'll hear it beeping when you're pressing it. So that's your up, down, left, right. So if I got my thumb here and I try and push the diagonal, it doesn't. I'm sort of used to doing it now. It is there. You haven't got to push too hard. I see it's missing sometimes when I'm pushing it. So what I found is you need to literally just put your thumb like this, and then you do it. So I'm missing the up there. And some people are getting ghost inputs. See if you put slightly across. I did have one. It depends what game you're playing, basically. But it is... Because I'm quite light usually on the D-pad. I was using it very lightly like that. And when you do that, when you use it very lightly, look, you can't get the angles properly. You do need to like dig in a little bit. So that's a little bit of a downside, to be honest. It's not a complete game change, a game changer, but it is a problem. It's not. You do have to be a little bit more heavy-handed with the D-pad to get it to work. But once you find the best way of holding it, you can see you can get them then, basically. You just got to put a bit more pressure into it. Buttons and everything are all fine. They all feel great. Playing music on this. So, yeah, so that's the D-pad thing. Yeah, I wish the D-pad was a little bit better, to be honest. So it's like I said, it's not a complete I'm going to get rid of it, but you do need to, like I say, you do need to get your thumb on it like that and then really push the angles. But I'm getting used to it now, and it does sometimes depend what game you got. Sometimes it works lightly in other games. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, that's a little bit of a downside. The other downside, I would say, is you can't use the screen filters on the FPGA cores. So hopefully someone figures out a way of doing it. And I'm not sure if you can use them on the TV with the dock, because I haven't got one to try it. I'll have to ask my mate that, because he's got the dock as well. So I'll have to ask him, can you do it? But yeah, so other good points is the fact you can dock it and use it as a console, essentially, like the Switch. With the FPGA cores, you can use it as a retro console. I say there's more cores coming out for it. Hopefully the Neogeo Pocket core will eventually come out for the Pocket. That'd be fantastic. And it's going to be interesting over time now to see how many more extra cores they bring to it. The more cores, the better. And you can get it set up. The other thing I will say, the only slightly awkward code to set up games is the PC Engine CD. What you have to do with the PC Engine CD games, you have to be in bin and queue format, preferably less than something like 17 files, something like that. But you can get around that by compressing them and uncompressing them, and then it gives you 2 files. And then they have to be in a folder with the same name as the files. At least I think it's the same name. And then when you put them in the common folder in the assets for PC Engine CD, then when you run the updater, it updates them and adds like a text file, like I can't remember what format it is, into each folder, and then you can load the games. So you can't just dump them on and they work. You have to run the updater and put them in the specific folder, and then it adds a little file, and you can run the games off you. The one thing I will point this out as well. One thing, when I was playing PC Engine CD, I noticed the sound didn't sound right. It's like the music sounds really off. So if I use, I don't know, let's have a look for something with good music. This is the one I really noticed it on. Let's do loads of fun there. So I don't know whether you can hear this when it loads up. So if I press start, it doesn't sound right. It's not quite right. It sounds off. There is options in the core to adjust music. See, it doesn't sound quite right there. And I was like, oh, the sound is balked. But I don't think the sound is balked. I think it's just the speakers. For some reason, the music on the PC Engine is sounding a little bit weird for the speakers. If you plug headphones, like you've got standard headphone jack, I forgot to point that out as well. Standard headphone jack. If you put a headphone jack in this, it sounds perfect. So it's not the core. It's just the speakers are making it sound a bit weird. See, that doesn't sound right at all. It sounds like completely off. But if you, like I said, put headphones in, it's fine. So it is the speakers that are making it sound, or part of the core they're outputting to the speakers is not quite sounding right. I don't know. But put headphones on, it's perfect. So I don't know. Just one other thing, guys, I forgot to mention. This will play EverDrives as well. I think most of them work on there. But I do have a Gameboy. I've packed it away. I do have a Gameboy X7 EverDrive, and it just doesn't work on you. It says it has a fix on the website, well, on the EverDrive, which you can enable, but it won't work basically. And Chris says it was fixed in revision B. I have a revision C version of it, and it just doesn't work. It works in the original Game Boy, but it just won't work on this. The reason I got that card is I swapped my original EverDrive with my mate because he couldn't get this one to work on his Game Boy Pocket either. So I ended up doing a deal because I didn't have one. So that's why he's got the one that works. But it doesn't matter. You say you can play them for the FPGA, you just can't use any of the screen display options. But I just thought I'd add that at the end, guys, because I did forget to mention it. So yeah, some EverDrives may be a bit sketchy with it. You may have to look online to see what works and what doesn't work. So, but apparently all the cartridges work. So there you go. Well, that's the best overview I can do of the Pocket, guys. I hope you like the look of it. Overall, what are my thoughts of this so far? I really like it. It's a very nice piece of kit. I love the fact that I've got a handheld FPGA console essentially now that plays loads of stuff, including nice Game Boy games. So I have been playing Game Boy games in this quite a bit. Really nice, beautiful screen. The buttons, everything are fine. D-pad can be a little bit sketchy, but once you get used to it and you know you've got to put a little bit more pressure onto it, it's generally okay, but I wish it was a bit better. So overall, I do like it. It's a very nice piece of kit. Whether they've made any changes to the D-pad on the latest versions, I have no idea. But I would say if you're after a handheld console, especially if you want to play Game Boy games and stuff like that, and you're into the FPGA stuff, and you want FPGA on the move, I think it's well worth picking up. And they're $220 at the moment, so probably just under £200 if you can buy one. Unfortunately, the other downside is if you manage to order one, which you can't at the moment, you'll pre-order it, you'll buy it, and you may get it, who knows, it could be 4 months, 5 months, a year down the line, you might get it through the post. But, you know, that's the things with these. They're highly sought after. People are scalping them all over the place, and they're very, very hard to get hold of because you know, Analogue only do pre-orders from every now and then, and they sell out instantly. So you've got to be quick if you want one. I say I was waiting for the next pre-order to come up, and I was going to put a pre-order down, but I managed to get it this way, which I was pretty lucky to be honest. But yeah, it's a very nice handheld. There is a little bit let down by the D-pad, which is a bit of a shame, to be honest. But it's not a deal breaker. I'm definitely you can get around it. It is like a SNES D-pad underneath there as well. It's got the same type of rubbers and everything as the SNES, going by videos I've seen of it. But yeah, Analogue Pocket, I really like it. I am going to be playing it more. Maybe my thoughts will change over, you know, the extra time I take to play it and over the few months. I don't know, but so far it's a very nice piece of kit, but a little bit let down by the D-pad, but it is serviceable. So hopefully, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that review, and if you do fancy a Pocket, yeah, I'd try and get one if you can. If that's, you know, if this is what you're after, I would try and pick one up because they are very nice. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that, and I shall catch you soon. Bye now.